So I'd been to Harlan County before on ASP 8 years ago, and remember it as a big ATV place, and a lot of poverty down there. Had you been there before?
I had not been to Harlan County, no. You and I have been on ASP several times together, but never on the same team. So yeah, that was great. It was a great week. Imogene, our homeowner, we really grew close to her. Didn't happen immediately. I know you had that first home visit.
Yeah, Chuck and I went out, Chuck Miller, and Sunday night to look at the house, and we met Imogene, but she kind of stayed in the background while we looked at the house and figured out what work we had to do. But she seemed nice, but not overly friendly.
Mm-hmm. And I think at first, when we all arrived that first day, and she was a little reluctant, just kind of wondering how this was going to work, and you got these team of, 5 or 6 of us coming into her house. I forget kind of how we started the conversation, but it quickly became obvious that she was a recent widow. Her husband had died, just this past January, and she was still just really absorbed in the grief. And just, if you remember, slowly began talking so much about their relationship, about what kind of man he was, and then from funny stories to sad stories, and but just how much she misses him. And his grave is right in the front yard, so that was something that she was very proud. I remember showing all of us and all the things she has around the grave.
Yeah, it was quite amazing how well cared for the grave and how many decorations she had around it. It was obvious how important that was.
And I remember, I think she was talking to Roger one day, and it came out that she didn't, because she had been so upset, and it was just such a awful time in her life, she couldn't even remember the service that they had had in the yard for him when he passed away in January. And that really upset her, obviously.
Yeah, I think we realized in a couple days that a big part of our ministry that week was going to be listening to her story and just letting her talk about her husband and her other family members. And I know you and Caroline spent a lot of time just listening, and sometimes all of us would gather on the porch and hear her tell her stories. And I was...
And I think a lot of, even the work that you guys mainly did on the house, but that we did on the house, she was able to kind of weave her husband in and out of that by things he had done, things they had done together to the house, tools that she shared with us that were his. And I think that was also another good outlet for her to bring him into what we were doing.
Yeah, it did. It was my 8th time on ASP, and I'd say this was a time when we really developed a strong bond with the homeowner. Just a bond of love with her and her sister Ann. It was powerful.
Yeah, it really was. And really, the week culminating with the service that we had at memorial, a small funeral memorial that Roger was able to do, and Chuck read, and we all got to be a part of, and just was so touching and so emotional, especially for Imogene.
Yeah, it was. It rained. It seemed like it rained all that morning, and then it quit, and it was a little soggy and muddy, but we got gathered around the gravesite, and Roger had planned the service right for the Episcopal burial service, but shortened and with some readings, and then we sang. We all sang "Amazing Grace" at the end. That was She got pretty choked up at that.
And I remember she said at the end of it that she finally felt like she might want to go back to church. Like she was ready to go back to church. She hadn't been able to go.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was a pretty incredible experience.
Yeah, and I mean, she gave us a lot that week too. It was great stories and a good time, good fellowship with her.